You're welcome, George.
Thank you very much for having me, Fred.
And I also have Matthew Wasonga with me in the studio.
Thank you, Fred.
Matthew, your area was like the epicenter of just all kind of bad things.
Yes.
Matthew operates within Rongai. He's called the kingpin of Rongai.
Yes. I will not take that name because in the midst of doing all these things going, you realize Murkomen saying that is going after Rigiji. So if you say I'm the kingpin of Rongai, I don't want Murkomen to come after me, especially after his last statement.
Yes. There was a lot of violence.
There were a lot of violence in Rongai.
And demonstration. Yes. We had two aspects. There were demonstrations and you also had goons.
Yeah. You know, I always ask myself that at what point do the peaceful demonstrators exit and enter the hooligans? Because, for instance, in Rongai, the demonstration was quite peaceful in the better part of the morning. The demonstration started at around 10, and it was so peaceful. Actually, I can remember that people were being escorted by the police.
Oh, really?
Yes.
The demonstrators?
Actually, there were two police vans, one in front, another one at the back, and the people were in the middle being escorted by the police. It was so peaceful. Up to around 2:30, that is when hell broke loose. So I don't know where these hooligans came from, where they were still sleeping or what happened, but as just the rest of the country, it was worse afterward. Unfortunately, we lost a life. Someone was shot. Properties were vandalized, looted. Supermarkets, unfortunately there was no any supermarket, but properties, businesses, so it was so chaotic. And we condemned that act because that is not what we want as a country.
Yeah. Ngaira.
Absolutely, as expected, Fred, Kenyans were always going to show up for such an important day, at the very least in the eyes of the Gen Zs, because it was a memory down the lane on what happened last year, and I think it was right that we can go back and remember those who paid their price, which is they paid everything for that cause. But unfortunately, as it is in every world, Fred, there are always human beings who are out there to always run on your parade whenever something good happens around you, or such an eventful event. And the police ought to have known this before. Fred, nowadays, I think you can almost predict where violence would be, because that's what security intelligence does. You can tell that these are the hotspots where you're able to pick, and I think police ought to have done the reinforcement that is needed to be able to capture those areas. I was just telling Matthew here before we went on air that, it's shocking that there are new places like Mlolongo and Kitengele and Rongai. They have become the new kids on the block, in as far as violent demonstrations are concerned, because traditionally the profiling was always in Kondele, and everybody would want to switch to Kondele. There was no demonstration in Kondele this time around. People were having they were living their lives, and Rongai and Mlolongo and Kitengela have become hotspots. I do not know whether it's because there's a change of population or those people have now become more angrier than the Kondele boys. But you see, be it as it may, a tragic day for those who lost their lives. I'm very sad that a day like that one has ended up with even more people dying, because we're supposed to commemorate those who died. I guess the number now goes to 75 if we top up the 15 over and above the other 60. It means the Gen Z struggle has now costed 75 people.
Those are 75 lives that have gone into eternity.
With live bullets on the spot, Fred. It's not a rumor. No, dead bodies collected and declared dead, and dead by bullets. A very unfortunate day, but I hope that we can begin to find out appropriate ways of being able to handle our mandamanos, and also the police can be able to use, that's the benefit of having an intelligence system, is that you are able to predict when and how that can happen. And particularly in the community areas, I realize nowadays most times the criminals actually target the enterprises. And so if there's a supermarket or a mall or something like that in the nearby, that is usually where they want to go. And you've seen what has happened even in town. I was in town yesterday, and you could see shops where I think somebody had been loitering there for a long time hoping to buy a phone.
Yeah,
and this time round was free shopping for him, and
Yeah.
they broke into those stores and took away dozens of phones. But unfortunately for some of them, those phones are those ones which are being tracked, the ones of Lipa Mdogo Mdogo. I don't know how you'll operate with such a phone because they can be able to be tracked, you know, most of them.
Yes.
But it was very unfortunate.
But you know, Fred, as much as we say we've lost at least 15 people in the last demonstrations, you know, nobody's talking about the police.
Yes.
Let us look at this thing from both sides. There were peaceful demonstrators.
Mombasa was
If you
was
look at
generally
what was happening in Mombasa, the better part of the morning it was so peaceful.
Yes.
In fact, we've not heard that there is a loss of life in Mombasa.
Yes.
In Rongai, because I witnessed this first-hand
Yes.
information,
Yes.
I was in the street, not participating in the demos,
Just
but
observing.
I was just trying to observe because as a leader I wanted to know, where do we start to get the problem? At what point? Demonstration is our right, but now, is it also our right to destroy other people's property? These are police officers. If people start throwing stones as police officers, what do you expect?
Yeah.
Okay? I was sitting with a police officer next to KCB Bank.
Yes.
And this gentleman was telling Matthew, look at these people. Now, is this peaceful? Why throwing stones? Look at it. Okay? The Ongatarongai OCS was seated by a stone.
Was hit by a
yes, Mr. Mwangi. So, how then is it peaceful? And what I'm asking myself, this was supposed to be a memorial event. How did the memorial event turn to be the one time and the Ruto must go chant?
Well, have you ever seen a memorial, even the Sabasaba memorials?
Because now that is where we get it all wrong.
They were never memorials.
You know, we start something with a good intention,
Yes.
then up in the middle, we allow the politics to take over the entire thing. And we know in this country that everything we are doing, immediately the politics take over, then we speak another thing. We now talk of chaos. That is exactly what happens. It's sad that as we speak, and I think the organizers of the demos and those people, they should work closely with the security apparatus to ensure that these goons are apprehended. Because it's so sad, Fred, that we went out to mourn the 60 that lost their life last year, only to end up with another 15. It's not making any sense. Okay? And this is where the problem is, Fred. Our youth, the Gen Zs, are slowly losing direction. These guys are really falling into the trap of the politics of the day. And that is where we get it wrong. I wish these youths can just wake up. If they do it minus the politics, there is always success. When the youths came out to reject the Finance Bill 2024-2025, it was a success. The president said, I'm not going to sign it. Even though Kimani Ichung'wah later said that, okay, it was passed, but now it was passed behind the scene.
Yes.
Okay? But now when, in the June 25th demos 2024, was a pure agenda. There was no politics. Only for them to come back and fall into the trap of our politics, whereby we know how to do best like our politicians. This group versus this group, regrouping versus this grouping. As we speak today, even the JCs are divided. There are those who say, if you look at what's happening in Kisumu, there's someone saying, yeah, in Kisumu we don't want demos. And then demonstrate huko. We don't want it here.
Yes.
The demonstration has now been tagged the Gachagua project.
Yes.
So it is now losing the agenda. It is now no longer demonstration like what the activists and the organizers were saying. It was no longer now, it is not now the remembrance of those who lost their life. It is now the Ruto versus the opposition. Is this the kind of a country we want to have? I wish, Fred, we can just wake up as a nation. I said here last Friday that what we need to do now for the remaining 2 years is to have a soul search and ask ourselves the most important question: what kind of a country do we want to have? If we don't ask ourselves such questions, Fred, even after 2027 general election, we'll still be on the streets.
Yes.
Because when we were electing President William Ruto, we know who we were electing.
Yes.
But for the reason best known to us, because of the hate and the emotions we had, we end up electing this guy. The same thing is going to repeat itself in 2027 if we don't take care. Because as it is now, Fred, the Gen Zs and the youths have completely fell into the trap of the politics of the day. If you can see today, The Gen Zs last year, and Alan being one of them,
Yes.
last year they were saying we are tribeless, we are leaderless. Okay?
But
we are partyless. Is it the same situation now?
Are you saying now
Yes.
that the whole thing was orchestrated, Ngaira, that the whole thing was orchestrated by Rigiji as it now
No,
is
it was not orchestrated by Rigiji as per se. But what I'm saying, Fred,
was this a planned thing that politicians took over to turn goons? These people who are invading shops, supermarkets, are you saying this?
This what I'm saying
Yes.
is that the organizers, the activists, their main plan was to pay respect to the lost Kenyans in the last demos, the 60. They were to have a very peaceful movement. They have to remember these guys,
Yes.
lay flowers and do the things. It was a memorial event. But either way, they decided to fall into the trap of politicians and allow the politics of the day to take over the event. That is why we end up with whatever thing we have now.
These gangs, these guys who've broken into supermarkets. I know politics
They were
played a role.
goons.
Do you believe what the government is now saying? Kipchumba Murkomen
Yes.
is now saying
Yes.
that this was Wamunyoro Express. Gaira.
You know, obviously, when you see human beings working in groups and conducting themselves in a certain specific manner, you can tell that they were organized and they were supposed to perform a certain specific function. Never mind, even though, Fred, you must understand that as human beings, sometimes we have our own internal characters that might not be on the face of it. There are people who can join groups in pretense that they want to participate in the demonstrations for the purposes of remembering our brothers. But you see, internally they have other plans which they want to do, which could include robbing off and pickpocketing individuals. Fred, there's no doubt that there's politics around what is happening with the Gen Z.
Yes.
It's now a big and legitimate voting bloc, and everybody that wants to play a role in the next election wants to appeal to it. So it's possible that there's some politicians who actually hijacked this Gen Z process and the goodwill
Yes.
that is being enjoyed by these young people to be able to do politics. And I think for some of them, this was an opportunity to be able to continue to show. Somebody told me yesterday that finally we can now confirm that in Kenya we can have Maandamano without Raila Odinga, because we used to think that that's the only person that can call Maandamano and it goes as militant as it has been yesterday, the day before yesterday.
Because those were huge numbers.
You saw the ones on Thika Road.
Yes.
You saw the ones on Thika Road. They were very determined.
And Kiambu Road.
And Kiambu Road.
Yes.
And they were heading to State House. That's what they said. And
Yes.
they made it to State House Avenue there.
Yes.
You even saw a lady trying to do a high jump with a, I don't know if you saw the
A
clip.
cold air.
That's a real sportswoman.
Yes.
You only want to jump into State House. That's
Yes.
how serious they were.
Yeah.
And they were at a danger zone. You know, once you take that direction, it means you mean business. So, Fred, I'm saying that it's possible that even though there are those who mean well and wanted to express themselves in the context of what the day was for, there are those who take up that chance and are able to pursue other interests, which could include politics. And that's why you would see certain organized mobilization, because ordinarily you expect everybody to show up in their own ways, you understand?
Yeah.
But when you see a pool of almost 5,000 people working together, surely it has to be that they were put together by somebody to achieve whatever the reason whatever things he wanted to achieve. However, the country is in a good place now, because it's an indication that Kenyans are willing to listen. It's just that they should listen to the right people.
When you say Kenyans are willing to listen, you mean the ordinary mwananchi Kenyan, or which Kenyan are you talking about? And who are they willing to listen to?
Fred, Kenya is a free and is a free democracy where every Kenyan is free to express themselves. However, there are legal limits as to what you can do in as far as expressing yourself is concerned. So these people are not wrong by showing up for the Maandamanos. I'm just saying is that in that same breath, there are people who come in with their own ill intentions to be able to commit crimes and things like that. And so those that we saw in Thika Road and those that we saw in Kiambu were obviously in large groups, which could indicate that they had been put together, or Or they could have chosen to form a cooperative. You know, there's so many cooperatives along Thika Road. Maybe this could be a a demonstration cooperative. But clearly it indicated that they were originating from the same place, and which is not wrong, Fred. I could believe that, for example, on an issue of green action, and the issue of carbon credits is an issue that the whole country needs to hear and support a group to be able to do that. It's not a problem, because I think now even campaign funding is something that is legal now. You can raise money from the public to support causes, which could also include political causes. So it's actually not a crime for people to be helped to be able to go and express themselves, because that's what democracy is all about. I think the challenge is that having those who have ill motive, and so then we ended up with the kind of situation that we had within Nairobi town and other places. It wasn't really Nairobi alone. When you look at in Kakamega as well, we even had some few individuals there who walked to one of my favorite restaurants along Kakamega, just next to the bus park.
Must have stolen chicken.
It was actually fish. I go there for fish.
They took off with fish.
A lot of fish.
Oh my goodness.
A lot of fish. And another one which I witnessed just on Bunyala Road there, one of those chicken eateries, they walked in and walked out with everything. A very tragic case there for that business. But Fred, I think indeed it's true that some of them appear to have been organized because they came in certain groups and they appeared to be speaking the same language. It can't be that they just met on the road to be able to walk in such a manner. Those who wanted to come to town on their own actually came very early. I was in town very early because I had other commitments as well on a morning show. And so I was able to check town at that morning hours. It was very quiet. But then later on, obviously, it picked up, and then we ended up with the day that we had on that particular day. So it's possible people had funded that group.
So some of the things that I've had people saying, and these are Wamunyoro people, they're asking, then Wamunyoro must be a very powerful person to be able to organize such huge demonstrations around the country.
Fred, for this, as much as I might not agree with Rigiji, but I always say that I always say what I believe is right. For this demonstration that happened in the country, I don't think Wamunyoro has a hand in it. Or even if he does, maybe here in Nairobi.
Yes.
Because the demonstrations happen in more than 20 counties.
Yes.
Actually, around 27.
Yes.
We know how the politics of the day plays. There is this politics of stronghold and tribal and all those other things. As it is now, Rigathi Gachagua only enjoy a majority support in central Kenya.
Yes.
You cannot say that Rigathi Gachagua has support in Eldoret. But we saw demonstration in Eldoret, and the Ketia supermarket in Eldoret was stoned. Okay, we saw demonstrations in Mombasa. It was a bit peaceful. We saw demonstrations in Makueni counties. Okay, we saw demonstration in Kajiado, Machakos.
Yeah.
Okay,
and even Kitui.
Yes. We saw demonstrations in Nyeri. Do we say Rigathi Gachagua organized his own people to destroy Nyeri, which is his hometown? Then, if that was the case, then he must be one of the most, I don't know how to describe such kind of a leader.
Yes.
Because you cannot destroy your own home.
Yes, you can't.
Because you have problem with another person. You will first protect your home. So, what happens is that, as I said earlier, is that the intention of the demonstration was good.
Yes.
But either way, the politics overtook the entire event, and it's now turned into a political event.
Yes.
That is why we hear the chant of the Ruto must go and the one term. Nobody was even talking of the deceased. Remember, in the morning, Fred, the opposition leaders, Kalonzo Musyoka and Eugene Wamalwa, laid flowers at the Parliament building.
Yes.
Okay? They started at the Holy Family Basilica. Was it? Yes. With the flowers, they started with the prayers. Okay? Then along the way, the politics took over. What happens is that I cannot say the demonstration were people mobilized by the Wamunyoro team. Yes. Even the government or the government agencies could have mobilized these guys. Yes. I'm not saying that was the case, but they could have mobilized these guys just to put the blame on the opposition side. So what I'm saying is this, Fred. It is time for us as a country to sit back and ask ourselves, what kind of a country do we want for ourselves? Fred, if we don't reason
We're going to
We are
bust this
just going
country.
to find ourselves. We are going to go round circles and circles again and again, and there is no any single solution we are going to find. Because Fred,
do you see this? Do you see this happening again in 2026?
Even in 2028, leave alone the 2026.
Yeah.
Even in 2028 or 2030, we're still going to have this same problem unless we decided to think. Fred, let me tell you this.
Unless we decide
Fred,
to do what?
Fred,
to deal with,
you cannot,
to address the issues that were raised.
You cannot solve the problem when you are still thinking at the same level you were when you created the same problem. As it is now, we are still thinking at the same level we were when we created this problem. In 2022, the song was Uhuru Maliza Wende.
Yeah.
That was in our mind. Finish and go.
Yes.
Okay? And we were saying we don't want to care who is coming. But when Maliza where? Today we are saying Ruto must go. The big question I want Kenyans to ask, and especially the Gen Zs, today we are saying Ruto must go. We all know and agree in one accord that we know who is going.
Yes.
But do we know who is coming? The big question and the big interest will be on who is coming. And even if Ruto is going, it has to be in the most democratic way, as it is in our constitution. Because we are a country ruled by governed by the rule of law. We cannot go wrong on our country.
Yes, you don't want to set a precedent.
Yes.
Where you run a president out of state house using, this kind of thing.
Yes.
Because when you do it, it will keep on happening.
Exactly. We don't want to remove Ruto as a result of a coup, like it has been happening in other countries. Go the country that has experienced coup. The country struggle to stabilize. Some of them are even down, still struggling with the economy. Kenyans, we've risen to a certain level that we don't want to go there. The big question, in the next 2 years, we are going to have a democratic election. By August 10th August 2027, we are going to the poll. That is what is in our constitution. These 2 years, let us remain as Kenyan and ask ourselves the question. We know who is going, then who is coming. And what is the difference between the one going and the one coming? Okay?
Lest we end up having the same thing.
Yeah, because so that we don't end up with the same problem repeating itself, Fred.
Do you think...
Just to bring Ngaira in, Fred,
Yes.
we are talking, the youths are now saying about high cost of living, unemployment, extrajudicial killing. Fred, we did not start experiencing extrajudicial killing this year or last year. During Uhuru's time, there were extreme extrajudicial killing. That was the time where we had the Rivayala saga.
Yes.
People were killed. Okay? Did it stop? No. Ruto has been in office for 3 years. We are still experiencing extrajudicial killing. If we don't change our thoughts and how we are going to look at things, even after 2027, we are still having extrajudicial killing.
Matiang'i addressed that, Ngaira, and he said that we need to set up what you can call a public commission.
Yes.
Whereby these issues are put there. And he even says, I am willing to come. Let us investigate this, because he says, you accused us of Rivayala. Rivayala is still going on.
But why did he not stop it when he was the
Ngaira?
Yes.
Yes.
I think on this debate of the debates and on this debate of demonstrations and the outcomes of these demonstrations, Fred, it's not the first time that we are having demos in this country. It's been there since the 60s. You remember the story of 1969 when Jomo went to Kisumu to open the Russia hospital.
Yes.
And there was still an outcry from the public. The human beings were there, were not very happy with the government of the day. And in the process, we ended up with the massacre that happened at that particular time. That was in the 60s. Fred, this is 60 years later. And so as human beings, Fred, we are always bound at some point not to be able to agree on every issue. And there will always be need for us to confront each other. It's just that I don't think this violent way of confronting each other is what is the best.
It doesn't work for this country.
It doesn't work for this country, but unfortunately we are dealing with leaders. Fred, when you have a leader that is not listening to the people, they become angry and they revolt in a manner that we are doing.
When you say that, are you saying that the powers that be now are not listening to the people? Ngaira.
Yes, the powers that be are not listening to the people, and this president has shown it for the last 1 year. The issues that the young men raised that particular time haven't been quite covered. I think we covered this the other day when we were here in the morning. And I said, now that this president has not even for an inch appeared to even be sorrowful and considerate to what has happened to families that have lost their lives, and even take at the very least, be able to compensate some of these families, because some of the people that died were young breadwinners who had people that were depending on them, you understand? And they haven't been sorted up until now. It just tells you the lack of seriousness that this president has put into the issues that have been raised by these young people. And so, for me, from where I sit, Fred, the demos will always be there. That's why they are provided for. It's actually acknowledged within our constitution that people can be able to come out and tackle an issue where they feel that there are things which are not happening and things which are not happening.
So we should expect demos in 2025, 26, 27.
Fred, what we need to do is to have a clear maybe legal legislation that sort of portrays what a demo should look like, and what is the role of every other person that is participating in that demo. The person organizing, the marshals, the targets, and those who are giving them transport and logistics and communication. All those things that go into promoting a well-structured demonstration. So Fred, for me, I just think that the demos are right. It's just that we lack a proper structured way of being able to conduct them.
The demos are right, and I will disagree with my brother Ngaira, is that we don't lack the structural way to present it. The only problem is that we have authority or the government that are afraid of being petitioned or being questioned. That is why every time someone writes, because the Constitution says that everybody has a right to peaceful demonstration, picketing, and to petition any public office. Okay? Yeah. So the only problem we have is that when we start to petition or to ask questions, the government we have is afraid of that. They are afraid of the public criticism. And that is why these people does not even, that's why we need to have a government of the day that are responsible, can even answerable to the people. When the people ask about our public debt, then the government can come and say, yes, you asked about the public debt, this is what we borrowed, this is how we spend the money, and this is what we are paying. Okay? Yeah. As it is now, the government cannot even come publicly and say, this is what we borrowed and this is what we are paying. We don't know. We are just only being told we borrowed it 11 trillion. What does this 11 trillion does? And why must we borrow? Okay? That is the question. And when we come out to us, then the president, then the government will now saying, we don't want you to talk. Okay, and we end up with chaos. That is why it is even good for some people and some individuals to sponsor goons. Because as I said, Fred, for this one, I had the first-hand information. The demonstration was peaceful. Okay? Yeah. I think here in EBN, you can even have the clips with your reporters across the country. You recorded that the better part of the morning, the demonstrations were peaceful. And this has been happening always. It has happened that most cases in the morning hours, between the morning and up to around 2, we always have a very peaceful demonstration. Okay? It is only after that the numbers coming in. Then those who are in authority, because of the fear, they now start to send goons. And now say, now we have to stop these guys. Okay? And that is when now we have to realize the demonstration. And that's why I'm saying, Fred, as a country, we need to ask ourselves, where did we get it all wrong? And if you remember, Fred, I was saying someone the other day that as a country, sometimes if you look at what is happening, we only focus on the president and the powers of the president. But we fail to understand that the president has the executive powers. Today, the beginning of all this chaos we are experiencing now, and what even have triggered the political temperature in the country, started when the MPs passed the 2024 finance bill. Yes. Okay? And in the finance bill, there was allegation that these guys were called in State House, bribed with some money. Yes. Okay? In fact, one of them is the one who said, not Matthew, they were bribed with around 2 million Kenyan shillings. Yes. They were saying this in the parliament, okay? Yes. That they were given 2 million shillings to pass the finance bill. Yes. During that demonstration, as people were demonstrating and children being killed on the street, our main honorable members were in the parliament passing the same finance. Yes. They didn't see anything wrong despite the noise. Yes. Okay? Yeah. When we talk of police extrajudicial killing, who is the head of the National Police Service? Is the IG. Yes. Who vet the IG and approve the IG? It's our parliament. Yes. Today we listen to an interior CS. Kipchumba Murkomen, telling the police that you have the right to kill. Kill them if they try to come close to kill. You know, as he was saying that when they invade police station to kill, what if that police officer will now say that As long as you are demonstrating, you have been given the go-ahead to kill. They can kill at will. This one is coming from a CS and saying these are orders from above. Who does the CS take orders from? Who vet this CS who has the audacity? Is Parliament. Have we even taken a single time and asked ourselves, what characters do we have?
But I guess one of the things we're saying is, and probably agree with him, when you invade a police station,
yes,
and according to him, he says they invaded the police station, they were trying to take guns and stuff. When you invade a police station, surely do you expect police officers to come bearing flowers?
You don't. But the big question I will ask myself is that at what point do people invade police stations? Of course, innocent Kenyans like you and I, we cannot go and invade police stations. These people who invade police stations, maybe they are criminals. What do we do with criminals? Does the law allow police to kill criminals?
Yes.
Is it in our constitution for criminals to be killed? No. They should be arrested and presented before the court of law.
But if they invade, if the police are defending themselves, the law allows them to
defend themselves and to use the firearm.
Yes.
Good. But now when you take it in public and say the police, wakikuja, is the research is your decoration, and you are saying it in the public, and can I tell you what happened?
Yes.
Hours after that statement, another police station was burnt down.
Yes.
Why? Now you can see, and this is coming, a statement is coming from the, you know what, Fred, what I'm saying is that common sense is not always common to everybody. A CS is saying this as a time when the country has lost complete confidence on our police force.
Yes.
Then a CS come and tell the people that now you can just do it. If you look at the clip, the crowd behind was busy booing the CS.
Yes.
Because they were not even happy. He was saying this thing in front of the police and the civilians. If that was the case, he could have just called this police officer somewhere in a closed-door meeting and tell them, now if the criminal, this is how... Because I know that these police officers, they are being trained on how to deal with criminals.
Yeah.
But why do you want to say that on a public platform with the civilians behind?
Okay.
That is wrong. The big question I ask myself, Fred, have we, as a Kenyans, have we, as much as we blame the president, but as we always even taken a moment to think on the kind of parliament we have? Okay? Because from my own understanding is that whatever is giving the executive the audacity to do whatever they want to do is the parliament.
Yes.
Because the parliament are the direct representative of the people.
Okay.
And they have the oversight role. If we can have an integrity, men and women of integrity at that house, I don't think we will be where we are now. Because even the president will have some kind of fear before he implement everything. But now we have a parliament that has been used as rubber stamp and to pass and everything and anything that comes from the executive.
Okay.
Do we even take a moment and ask ourselves what kind of MP do we elect? Fred, that is where the problem starts. And I want to say this one more time. Let us not focus on who is going. We are all in agreement and we never agreed in one accord that William Ruto does not deserve a second term. But our main focus now should shift to who is coming and who is going to represent us in parliament, so that we don't end up with the same problem that we have around again and again.
All right, we got to bring this the curtains down on the show. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for basically having these conversations with us. It's a beautiful situation. Whatever happens in this country, remember, we are responsible. Whatever happens in this country, we are responsible. We should always know that choices have consequences. When you destroy somebody's premises, enterprise, supermarket, whatever shop, you've destroyed a person's life. And that's very unfortunate. You're a criminal. You're a thief. And if the police shoot you in the process, then you deserve what you got, because you didn't care about the life of the person you are destroying. If you went through bus station yesterday, you find people there whose lives have been devastated. People are crying. You go to supermarkets, you've rendered an entire family completely. You've taken them back to poverty. You've destroyed shops. You don't know how much money that person invested in there. And a lot of it is in loans. So you have destroyed the families of those people. So for the goons, I really feel nothing for them. When you come out seeking to destroy other people's lives, the moment you go out with that intention, then you lose the right to claim the right to protection and life because you want to kill people. I saw in Kariobangi, a woman, Alan was showing me videos of a woman along Outer Ring Road, just there roundabout, of a woman who was, I think they were snatching phones from her and her valuables, and they were stomping her on the ground. That is somebody's sister, probably somebody's mother, somebody's wife. And you do that not caring because you're selfish. That is very, very unfortunate. And you know, these goons should be dealt with as what they are. They are just violent criminals. Robbery with violence. And they should have nothing, they should not be protected at all. When you set out to destroy the life of somebody, then I don't think you should claim right to life. So this is our country. We don't care what politicians want to do. Remember, we said the politician is just like the devil. He's after your soul. He will tell you Ruto is horrible or Gachagua is this and that. They will try to win your emotions so that you get to a place whereby you hate one against the other. And that's not what this country is all about. People lost their lives so that we can enjoy the freedom we have today. All right? I don't know whether they have that video. I mean, you're nicking somebody's phone and you step on them. You don't even know how they are doing today. There are women who are raped, and it's very unfortunate. Anyway, we'll show you that video some other time as we bring the curtains down on this show. Do have yourself a lovely morning.